So first of all, I want to thank all of you for helping me out this afternoon and joining me for the presentation. As most of you know, I am taking a class at JSU, and the title of the course is Action Research with Dr. Roy Bliss. And part of the course requirement is that I design an action research project based on something that we would consider to be a problem here at CE Hannah, a problem that exists in our school. So before I share a presentation with you that's based on the research that I did, there are a couple of questions that I want to ask you all first. So you can feel free to come off of mute and chime in, piggyback off of each other's answers. The first question is, what factors do you feel contribute to inadequate reading proficiency for students at this level? What do you think causes students at this level to have difficulty with reading?
Lack of interest.
Okay. What else?
Not reading enough, like just stopping and reading.
Okay. So volume of reading. What else?
What causes them to struggle?
Yes.
I think some of it too is we test and test and test so much that they just don't want to do it anymore.
Okay. So loss of interest, self-motivation, they don't read enough. Anything else?
I would have to say decoding.
Okay.
Maybe
So
they
lack
don't
of
know how to
skills in
decode.
general. They don't have the skills that they need to be able to tackle the text. Okay. All right. So the next question, what comes to mind in terms of a solution to this problem? So if I were to ask you, how do you think this problem, we could go about solving this problem or making it better? What would you say?
Free time reading
Okay.
built into everything.
Right. So if volume of reading on their part is a problem, then ultimately one of the solutions to that would be to provide some extra time to do that, to read. Okay. What else?
Offer some type of intervention.
Okay. Good.
I think what I was thinking kind of goes along with what Ms. Milliron said is, targeting those students at a very early grade.
Okay, and trying to find their interferences and fix those before they reach the middle school years. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me just a second here.
Tell Dr. Bliss I said hello.
I certainly will.
I worked with him for 2 years at Raglan, so tell him I miss him.
All righty. All right, so if you couldn't tell from the questions I asked you, the title of my project is Increasing Reading Proficiency Through Strategic Instruction. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay. All right, so the first part of the project is the problem statement. So I said that data analysis for students at CE Hannah Elementary School and the Oxford City School System has shown a need to increase the reading proficiency of 6th grade students. And over the last 4 years, data shows an average of 50% of students who fall into the at-risk or into the not proficient category on 6th grade reading benchmark assessments. So that's about half of the 6th grade population who are either at risk or it has been determined that they are not proficient. The second part of the research project is something called the hypothesis statement and definitions. So the hypothesis, as you already know, of course, is the theory behind what I feel would work to help improve the problem. So the hypothesis for the project is that 6th grade students at CE Hannah will demonstrate an increase in overall reading proficiency through planning for effective instruction, including the deliberate and intentional use of reading engagement strategies in the ELA and content area classrooms, so across the board. Some of the definitions that are within the paper, and I know you guys are probably familiar with most of these, but just in case, we are identified in the research project as being a Title I school. And of course, Title I is government funding that's provided to low income schools who have low achieving student populations. And in order to be or to receive Title I funds, the school has to have at least 40% of students or more, of course, who receive free and reduced lunch. The remainder of the list here of definitions, these are going to be some of the benchmarks that our kids either currently take or have taken in the past, which I drew the data from to create the problem statement. The first, of course, is iReady, and as you know, we give that 3 times a year. We give a diagnostic that helps to determine a personalized pathway for the students to be able to work on areas of weakness for them. The third definition is educational leadership solutions, also known as ELS. That's what you guys probably are familiar with most. And it's also a benchmark test. It is designed to have some technology enhanced items that the students would see on their state assessment. Then we have DRC Beacon, and it's also an online interim assessment. It determines their learning needs. It gives a list of areas of concern so that the teachers have an opportunity to work with students there. And number 5 is Scantron Performance Series. We typically just say Scantron, and it's a web-based assessment platform. It's designed to assess student performance and measure growth over time. And then last is the ACT Aspire, which before ACAP was our state assessment that we used in the spring. All right, the next part of the assignment or the project, once the problem has been identified and the hypothesis given for how to improve it, the next step then, of course, is to do a review of literature. So I did a lot of reading for the course, and I used academic journals. We were asked to use the most current information that we could find within the last 3 years. As I did my review of literature, I kind of synthesized the information and found that the research fell into one of 3 categories. So my first category was planning for effective instruction. Second, I have student engagement. And third, instructional strategies. So within the planning for effective instruction research that I did, I found an author by the name of Shanahan. He believed in quality instruction over the curriculum. So his belief was that no matter how strong the curriculum you have, that it will not be effective if the quality of instruction is not there that's being delivered by the teacher. He believes in research-based instruction, using time wisely. He says that, oftentimes it is the complaint of an ELA teacher that there's just not enough time to get everything accomplished, when really it's the use of the time and using it more efficiently that would benefit them. And then, of course, providing flexibility in scheduling. He says that's important, not so much necessarily in what time of the day that the students receive their instruction, but rather just making sure that there is time built in for independent reading, time built in for direct skill instruction, and then, of course, interventions if possible. The second author there was Harrison. He went as far as to say that as a reading teacher or an ELA teacher, we have moral duties that we are responsible for delivering to the students. And those are reading aloud to students, reading with students, and also reading for themselves, meaning the teacher reads for themselves. The second category is student engagement. And this one was a group of authors, and they believed that the reading workshop is beneficial, which includes the students having choice in book selection, having a diverse classroom library, providing differentiated instruction, making sure that students have a strong background, and I believe it was Brandy who said this in the beginning, of that explicit phonics instruction, that they have that foundational or that foundation set, and then teachers who love and respect literature. The next author is Meat, and he believes in something called the reading engagement model. And it enforces cooperative discussion and questioning, note-taking, and the close technique as far as strategies there. Then you have Luca, who believes that there's a strong link between behavior management and student engagement. In other words, the students will not obviously be as engaged in the lesson if there are behavior issues. And in the final category, instructional strategies, I apologize in advance for not being able to pronounce this name, but he believes that the best instructional strategies are predicting, clarifying, making connections, questioning, and summarizing. And again, you see student choice there. Then you have Bandit Volley, and he believes in skimming, scanning, making predictions, and questioning. Hovland, reciprocal teaching. Fisher and Fry, embedded questioning strategies. And I know that's been a focus here at CE Hannah for a while, so this one really got my attention. It was on question and answer relationships, also known as QAR. And in that particular strategy, the author focuses on questions that are right there, think and search, author and you, and on your own. And then he also endorses questioning the author, also known as QTA. And in this particular strategy, you focus on analyzing different perspectives. So comparing and contrasting, for example, the perspective of the author versus your own as the reader. And in this strategy, students are encouraged collaborative discussion, to have collaborative discussions. And last, Stevens, and again, a group of authors, they have something called question generation. And in this one was particularly in a science classroom, and it focused on, of course, informational text and two different types of questions, one being specific questions, which were basic recall, and then wide questions, which enforce the idea of inferences and connecting, making connections between ideas in the text. I found that one interesting because in the articles, it talked a lot about how there didn't necessarily even have to be a piece of text that went along with question generation, that you could use it with a lab or a video clip or something of that nature. But, you know, if we're talking about improving our reading scores, then obviously whenever possible, we want to make sure that we provide students with text that they can use these strategies with. Okay. All right. So once I did the review of literature, I had to develop an action plan, a list of steps that I felt that we as a faculty could take to make improvements in reading proficiency. And as with any action plan, there are going to be threats and limitations. And two of the ones that I focused on in the research is teacher resistance, meaning those teachers that don't necessarily think there's a need for change. And then a second threat or limitation, as mentioned in our questioning at the beginning, was student motivation, you know, getting them motivated to actually want to do better. And then objectives are also part of the action plan, delivering professional development for teachers, incorporating time for collaborative planning, having instructional partners that work as mentors, and providing that extra help when needed, increasing reading engagement within the classroom. And that hopefully will come in the form of using those strategies that the students are being taught. And then, of course, the last bullet here is the goal, which is to increase the overall reading proficiency. The subjects or participants in the study, of course, would be a focus on 6th grade students. The procedures to follow, again, these would be things that administration would put into place: flexibility in scheduling, professional development, instructional support as needed. And again, that would be your partners or mentors. And then conducting data chats within the classroom so that the students always know where they are in their learning. They become leaders of their own learning. The time frame would look something like this. So for the months of April and May, you know, we would conduct our end of year assessments as we normally do. June and July, these are the summer curriculum meetings that we are accustomed to having. August and September, of course, we would do our beginning of year assessments, data meetings, collaborative planning, strategy integration, and making intervention decisions. In October and November, we would still conduct our data meetings. More collaborative planning would continue, intervention adjustments as needed, and then strategy integration would continue. And then in December, this would be the mid-year benchmark assessments. This would be where we analyze our data that we've collected so far. There would be an evaluation of the strategic framework, and if it's found that there have been no improvements, the proficiency has not increased, then we would stop and punt and obviously try something different. The data collection and analysis, giving pre, mid, and post-unit common assessments within the ELA and the content area classrooms, conducting the benchmark assessments, using rubrics, success criteria, and proficiency scales in the classrooms, and then the data chats, of course, would be where the students could clearly communicate where they are in the learning process. And then important to know for the anticipated findings, in other words, why are we doing this? Of course, our goal is to equip students with tools that they need for success so that they do have that success later in life. The research that I read said, reading doesn't just affect them academically, it tends to sort of be a predictor for how successful students will be in life in general. Okay, and I have a list of references here that was used just for this presentation. I do have the complete research project and paper in my office. If any of you are interested in seeing that, then you are welcome to come by at any time and I will share that with you. So at this time, do any of you have any questions or comments?
No questions. I apologize for coming late to the party, but I appreciate all the work that you've put into this and how much of it you've shared with us to make us more aware.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. If not, again, if you think of something or you want to see the finished product, you're welcome to come by. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in and helping me out today. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.